Adam Patterson, and I work for the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry.
And what brings you to the diversity conference today?
I have been working with OMSI's diversity work group for two and a half years, and was looking for opportunities to find greater resources and a community within the Museum and Science Center field that could provide some additional perspective and tools to champion diversity and equity at our museum.
So it seems to me that diversity was first focused sort of racially, and that sort of shifted over the years. What are you seeing at your Science Center? What are the key hot buttons that you want to address?
I think for Oregon and the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, it's really about addressing the changing demographics of our state, which is far beyond just racial, indicators. It's everything from socioeconomic status to, gender equality issues, transgender issues, as well as, simple things like LGBT accessibility and, welcoming new styles of families, and then everything down to how a trans camper can interact at a overnight camp in a rural part of a state, and how do we make everybody feel welcome.
Okay. And are you seeing improvement or just change?
That's a good question. I think that it's hard to, sometimes change happens and it's hard for us to evaluate whether it's actual improvement. So I think by being part of a community like this diversity group here at Aztec, it gives us a better sense of what is an actual achievement and what is a change, and whether that change is in the right direction or the opposite. Overall, I'd say that we have seen pretty much a good sense of success with championing these things in a soft way, and creating grassroots energy that maybe doesn't look like really large-scale change, but changes mindsets in a more gradual way.
Julie Johnson, the co-founder of J2R2 Leadership and Change Associates in Virginia.
Now, I interviewed you a couple of years ago, and we were talking about the changing nature of diversity, shifting from sort of more racially focused to a much broader sense. Mm-hmm. What have you seen in the last couple of years in terms of that shift continuing?
Well, in particular with the Fellows program that I've been a part of and helped to facilitate their journeys each year, I've seen different kinds of museum professionals participating in the program, in bringing actually really interesting perspectives to the dialogue. So while race is still something that people get energized around and polarized around, there are other dimensions of diversity that have gotten less play. And what I would say is, in the groups that I'm working with now, we're looking at diversity across a number of dimensions: class, ability, the preference for the way we work with others and with ourselves. And so it makes for a richer dialogue, I actually think.
So when you say class, are you using that in a socioeconomic sense, or what do you?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that for so long, there was assumptions that if we were talking about race, then class was also a part of that. And actually, as people have been able to move and move upward economically, et cetera, we're starting to see that actually there's issues of class that are really important, that are not necessarily about race. Race may be a factor in it, but class actually may be more of an issue than we have before thought about.
Now, I get a sense in society in general that there's much more appreciation of diversity than there had been even 5 years ago, or even 3 or 2 years ago when we talked last. Do you see that as well?
I don't know that there's more appreciation. I think we have more dialogue than we have. We have younger people coming in to the field, for example, who have always been in dialogue around difference and connection, and so they're bringing their experiences into the conversation. I think by virtue of the fact that we have opened up space for and encouraged different communities of practice, and saying, no, we need to have dialogue, because unless I can hear what you're thinking, I can only assume. So I think there's just more space for dialogue, therefore we're hearing it more.
Okay. And are you feeling generally optimistic, pessimistic, about the same as a couple of years ago?
No, I'm always optimistic. I think that we have some really great talent in the field. I think we are still challenged as a field for thinking about how we continue to nurture and develop talent so that we have people that actually want to stay with their passion. But I am always optimistic that, you know, we've got some younger people coming along that will just like push me and others out of the way and like do what needs to be done. So, but of course, I was a middle school math and science teacher, so I think there's promise in everyone.
My name's Amanda Page. I am from the University of Michigan Museum of Natural History. I run our community outreach program, so our non-standards based program. When I think of diversity, I think of what people say when they mean diversity, so that's sort of code word for diversity, and then what diversity actually means to me. So diversity means not just races or socioeconomic groups, but it means, you know, different lifestyles, different communities, sort of the real definition of diversity where people are bringing their own experiences, so not everybody from one community even are being in Detroit. You have people who are from the east side and the west side, but they also need to interact with people who are from the richest counties in the state. So they should be interacting with people who grew up in the Bloomfields, and so they may share skin tones, but they might not share experiences, and that's what diversity really means to me.
And how are you finding the course this year?
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Part of what brought me back to the Fellows Program was its commitment to actually doing real diversity work. So it's not just, you know, ethnic minorities, but it's also inclusive of LGBT and people with different accessibility issues, and sort of the real broad work and commitment to bringing and keeping diversity in the field.
I am Brittany Lane, and I'm with Adventure Children's Museum.
And this is the second year for you at this program, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how are you finding it this year, and what changes have you seen since last year?
This year, coming back as an alum to the Fellows Program, I have a newfound respect for the program. Right. Last year, as a first-year fellow, there was a lot that I didn't know and a lot I needed to learn. So using the tools and the resources given to me last year, I'm coming back with a bit of a different perspective on what the program is designed to do. However, I find that there's still so much that I need to learn.
Okay. And what did you learn this time around?
Well, we're getting ready to get our scores back. So I used the information last year to work on myself. And this year, I'm using the information to better connect with the individuals I work with.
Right. Now, when you say scores, what do you mean? Myers-Briggs scores?
Yes, we're taking we took Myers-Briggs last year, but this year we took the FIRO assessment as alums.
And are you feeling generally optimistic, pessimistic, or about the same about the accessibility and diversity in science centers?
Listen, optimistic is an understatement. Because of what we do here and getting to go on to the conference to actually engage with the CEOs and the staff members and the personnel from the other museums, I'd see the future is so bright and it's so close that optimism just doesn't even begin to describe how I feel. It's definitely happening.